Hello everybody, Mr. Sticksman here, and welcome back to Stormworks. In today's video, we are going to finally discover how fast the Alpha Z can go. We're also going to work on the aesthetics of this boat. We're going to do some painting, we're going to change a few blocks around and see what we can do there. And then also, we might be able to add some trim tabs, just like the actual boat has, in order to increase top speed, make the boat plane better. But we'll find out how that goes in today's video. Let's get to work. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do today is improve this area because in reality it's a lot more curvy than we've got it right now. And also we're going to change up the centerpiece here because actually all of this is meant to be one piece of wood. And there's actually even a monitor or a screen of some kind on this centerpiece as well. So we're going to include that today, but let's get started with it. So we'll come around here and I think what we should do is add some pyramids here. Like this, either side, and actually I'll put symmetry mode on again. There we go, put a pyramid there and a pyramid over here. So already you can see we've got this nice curve now, but we do have to sort of carry that on underneath it as well, otherwise it's a very immediate drop off into nothing. Let's try and put an inverted pyramid just over here like that, and then maybe another pyramid underneath. There, that's not bad, is it? Yeah, I think that's quite good actually. And then, well, we can probably get rid of these now and put some wedges there instead, like that. Yeah. And does it work here? Good, because I'm just a bit worried that it might get in the way of the seat, but actually that's really, really good, I think. And we'll just do the same on the other side as well. Okay, lovely job. That's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. Also, we should really paint this bit, so if I just, what is it, grey, isn't it? I think we'll just get the grey and do that as well. Very nice. Now this centerpiece here, right, it does actually have a monitor or some kind of screen anyway, but the boat the boat was made in 1992, so it's nothing, you know, that's going to be too advanced, and I don't actually have any proper knowledge on how to set up, you know, lure for screens and everything, but I'm just going to put a monitor there anyway, and we might be able to add something to it in the future. But what I'm going to do here is grab a monitor, which is just a small one, like this. And it is actually recessed into this piece a bit, so there's like a big sort of hole in it, and then you can see the screen through that. This piece here is also going to be a 2x1 wedge now, so it's a bit more of a gradual angle down here. And also this dark grey here is going to carry on down across it, so we'll just do that, and it sort of finishes about there. Now there are more details on this piece here, but I'm going to leave it like that just for now, and we can always upgrade it in the future. But I think that's much closer to the real version, at least. Over here on the passenger side, there's actually some sort of grab handle. So to do that, I'm just going to get a pipe and colour it the same colour as these blocks right here. And just chuck that in there. Like that, basically. But for now, this area should be done. Just before I forget, actually, there is a bit of painting to do underneath. The goal of this video now is actually to try and test out the top speed of this boat. But of course we can't do that unless we have a display set up to read the speed and also, you know, RPS, temperatures and everything else, just to make sure that everything is running okay. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's get a microcontroller and add data to these 4 dials. Okay, so let's go into the microcontroller editor up here and we'll call it Alpha Z display. Okay then, now let's head into our logic tab here and add some nodes. So first of all, we're going to add the inputs for this. So we're going to have one for the RPS, the speed, the temperature, and actually 2 for the fuel because we've got 2 fuel tanks. So now I'll just separate these out and convert them into numbers. Okay, there we go. So we have RPS, speed, temperature, and then fuel 1 and fuel 2, because we have 2 fuel tanks. If we eventually add more fuel tanks, of course we'll add more inputs and we might have to make this bigger, but for now we just have 2 tanks. Okay, so all of these numbers are going into the microcontroller, but we also have to send the data out and into the instrument panel. So to do that, we're going to add one more node, and that's going to be a composite node, just like that. Okay. We'll just move it over here, and that is going to be an output, so we'll change that. There we go. Excellent. Now let's head over into logic here and line it all up. Okay, so the way I want to do this is I'm going to have fuel as channel 4 actually. We're going to have temperature as channel 3 over there. We're going to have speed as channel 2 and RPS as channel 1. And then to send all of that data through, we're going to use a composite write number. And we're going to give it a channel count of 4 because we have basically 4 dials on our instrument panel. And I've lined them up already in the order that I want. So RPS is going to be channel 1, speed is channel 2, temperature is 3. Now for the fuel here, these numbers are not both going to go into the same donut, as you can see there. You can only have one or the other. So what we're going to do is add an add gate, and we're going to just literally put both of them into the add gate. It's going to add the two numbers together and output it, and then send it through to the panel. Okay, so basically it's going to calculate how much fuel is in both tanks together and give us the overall value of that. Then we're just going to connect up our composite there, and all of that should be done. Now, of course, what we do have to do is just edit our instrument panel on the boat in order to make sure that all of this stuff kind of talks to it properly and send it to the right dial. And then once we've done that, it should be good to go. So let's get over to the boat and set it up. Here's the instrument panel then. So I'll click on select, go right into it. Now I have actually just set it up already off camera, but I'm going to show you exactly what I've done here. So instrument 1 is the RPS, okay? And that is going to be a min value of 0, max value 20, just because at the moment the engine is limited to 20 RPS. That might change, but that just means it's sort of calibrated with the dial, and so the needle is not going to spin around really, really fast or not enough. It's going to kind of scale up with our RPS on the engine there, and that is channel 1, okay? On instrument 2, we've got the speed. Now this boat, in reality, it has a maximum speed of about 85 miles an hour, which is around 73 knots. We are going to have our speed coming through to this in knots, and so I've put 75 on there. I'm not sure how fast it's going to go, whether it be slower or faster, you know, we'll have to see about that in the future, but I've just put a maximum value of 75 knots for now, and that should be pretty good for us. And that is channel 2 right there. Instrument 3 here is going to be temperature, and engines exploded around 120 degrees. Hopefully that won't be happening to us, but you know, minimum value 0, max 120, and then it will scale up with that properly, and that is channel 3. And then channel 4 is fuel. So we have 2 medium tanks here. We've got one there and one there, and if I remember correctly, each one is around 185 litres. It's probably not exactly, but let's just say they're 185 each, and that'll equal 370 litres in total. So, you know, I'll put 370 as the max value there, and then channel 4 as well. So that's all set up now, and all we have to do is put the microcontroller onto the boat and then link it all up, and we should be good to go. It should just fit here pretty nicely. That's good. That's very good. Okay, now let's go into logic again and start linking up all of our numbers. So first of all, we've got the RPS coming from the engine going into there. We'll have the temperature next as well, which is just over there. Okay, here we have fuel tanks 1 and 2. So that is one of the fuel tanks over there. We'll put it into fuel 1, and this second fuel tank onto fuel 2 there. And lastly, we've got the speed to link up there. However, well, I will link it up, but it's giving the speed at the moment in meters per second. So we're going to go back into this microcontroller right now and actually convert that from meters per second into knots. So we'll go back in here. Okay, so first of all, we're going to unlink it from channel 2 there. Okay, now we're going to use a function gate, this one right here. We'll place it down there and link it through into channel 2. Okay, and now we have to tell it to convert meters per second into knots. So we click on this and click on conversions down here, and it's actually this is really good. I love this. It's going to tell you how to convert all of these different values. So we're going to look for meters per second to knots, but you can do kilometers an hour, miles an hour, all kinds of stuff like that. But this is what we need here, so we're just going to copy that into the box up there. Okay, and that's done. So now the instrument panel should be displaying speed in knots, and that is now complete. So let's head back into the boat. Also, I should just quickly mention that I did set this to horizontal, of course, so it's going to measure our horizontal speed and not vertical speed or anything like that. I've got a big shelf of stuff here which I just don't need. Extra blocks. So we'll get rid of those. But I think I'm going to need... Yeah, I'm going to need those two. Otherwise there'll be holes in the boat and it's going to flood. There's one last thing we need to do here, and that is to connect the composite node. So back into logic and then composite, and then select that node there, and it goes straight into our instrument panel like that. Okay, so let's have a look at our instrument panel here. And yep, it's reading a bit of speed because of course the waves are moving us about a bit. 0 RPS, obviously. Temperature, there's some atmospheric temperature, so that's reading that at the moment. And yeah, and fuel, of course, that looks fine, 370 litres, and of course the needle is pointing right to the other end of the dial, so yeah, that's displaying it accurately, I think. Now let's turn the key, start it up, and get moving. Good, so engine is now ticking over, we've got some RPS reading there. Temperatures are increasing. Alright, now let's add some throttle. Start with about 71% there to get a good idea of the speed. Everything seems okay at the moment anyway. So 21.5 knots, nearly 22 knots there. 6.7 RPS. Temperatures are 40 degrees. That's pretty warm actually. That is quite warm. They seem to be alright though, 42 degrees. That's not terrible. I mean, yeah, I don't think we'll have a problem with those at all. But we'll keep an eye on it just in case. And we've got, and the fuel efficiency, look at that. That's really good actually. I mean, of course we're not using many revs, but it's still very good fuel efficiency. Yeah, 22 knots. Okay, now let's increase the speed a bit here. 81%. So how fast are we going to go now? 31, 32 knots. Not bad actually. I mean, we are going to be going quite a bit quicker in a minute. Let's just increase it there. Right, 91%. I'm just worried that we might do a backflip soon. So we've got to be really, really careful. But we go 45, 46, 47, 48. Not bad, right? Looking good so far. Yeah, really nice. I mean, the bow is sticking up, but it's not flipping. Oh, here we go. Wait a minute. It's lifting. It's lifting. Wait, back off a bit. Okay, it was just about to lift up there, so maybe 90%, not 91. There we go, 90%. Temperatures are now 53, 54. Yeah. Oh, it's cooling down, actually. It probably... Yeah, the temperatures increased, I think, when the hull came out of the water. But we're going quite quickly here. 43 knots, 44. Yeah. That's very good. Fuel efficiency is excellent. I mean, look at that. It's pretty cheap to run this thing. Now let's try some turning then. Because that's also really important, right? What we want to do is lean into a turn. So I'm just going to hold D. Okay. Not brilliant. Not terrible either. Yeah, but it's sort of flattening out. Oh, there we go. It's kind of leaning into it. Now let's try and back off on some of that angle on the rudder. Okay, that's not too good. It's quite flat, isn't it? It's slightly leaning into the turn. So it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. But it's not too bad. And I think actually if we do slow down a bit, I think it might be a bit better for turning. So we'll slow down to like, there we go, 30 knots there. Yeah, that's definitely better. It's not so consistent. But yeah, we are leaning just a little bit more. There we go. Leaning to the right there. So we are at least leaning into the turn and not out of it. Brilliant. Let's try another fast run. Let's see if we can just increase it a bit. Go to 90 and hopefully we won't do a backflip at 90% throttle. So doing consistently over 40 knots here. 43 sort of knots. 42, 43 on average. But the bow's lifting up. It wants to lift up, look. Oh no. Yeah, this could go very wrong in a minute. 44 knots, 45. It seems to be when it gets to like around 50 knots plus, it starts to really, really tip up. But temperatures are fine. Look, 55 degrees. That's not so bad, actually. Okay, so that seems to be about the limit, doesn't it? Because the bow is lifting quite a lot. Oh, there we go. Whoa, hang on, hang on. Yeah, that's about the limit there. So what is that? 90% throttle is a sort of risky. I mean, it's flat calm right now, but if there were any waves, that would be a lot more dangerous. But next, I've been thinking about adding some trim tabs to this. Now, I'm not sure that I'm actually going to use them, and there's a number of reasons for that. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, let's take it back in and have a go. Okay, now I've been doing some work on this boat actually. I've spent a couple of hours overall trying to work on trim tabs, and I tell you what, it hasn't solved the problem properly because it either does one thing or the other, but it doesn't do everything that I want it to. So for now, I've decided not to use trim tabs, but I have just made a bit of a, I'd say it's a small breakthrough, but it is a breakthrough nonetheless. And I've done a few things here to make this boat better. So I'm going to explain what I've done right now, and then I'm going to show you the results. But I think, you know, it's a good step forwards. So first of all then, I've added weight to this boat, and I've also done a bit of weight reduction as well. So let me explain that. Back here, I have done a lot of weight reduction on the rear half of this boat. I've turned a lot of blocks into wedges here, you know, at the back and along the sides and all kinds of stuff like that. So basically we've got more buoyancy, okay? So my thinking there is that because of the buoyancy, it's going to keep the stern a bit higher up in the water and therefore sort of counter the rising of the bow. So that's one of the reasons for it. Also, of course, it's a bit lighter, so it should actually go overall a bit faster and maybe have better acceleration overall. But that's the first thing I did. The second thing I did was I've added weight blocks. I think I might have had a couple before, but I've added more now. So I've got them right up to here at the front, because this, when the boat sort of leaves the water and the bow was rising into a backflip, it was kind of at this area here where it started to lose control. So I've put some weight blocks in this area and also ahead of it as well, obviously in the center, so it does keep the weight nice and balanced in the middle there. But this again, you know, the further forward the weight is, the more effect it's going to have on countering the bow rising up and then causing the backflip. Now that's the next thing I added, and you know, it actually did help quite a lot, but we were still doing backflips at this point. So the next changes I made have made the biggest difference, and I was quite surprised actually. So first of all, I thought, why don't I just try this? And of course it's not very realistic, but I've decided to put some rudders inside the hull and give them a positive value here. So they're basically working as downforce, but inside the boat. And they're set to, I think, 0.2, these rudders. I'll just check that on this little constant number here. Yeah, 0.2. So that's, in this situation, actually working very well, because what it's doing is it's not adding much weight here, but the downforce will of course scale with the speed. So at low speeds, it's not going to sort of really bring this bow down heavily into the water when it's just sitting still in the dock. It's not going to be sinking into the water too much because of all the extra weight. But at speed, it will have more weight just because of the speed alone. And so it should counter the bow just rising up that bit more. But it doesn't stop there, because the even bigger surprise for me was back here with the engine and the gearbox. Now it makes sense actually, but first of all I decided to reduce the gear. Okay, so I've changed it to 9 to 5. I think it was, I'm pretty sure it's 5 to 2 before, yeah. So it's 5 to 2, and I brought it back here to 9 to 5, okay? So the engine is now going to rev higher, and it's going to be less efficient, and it'll probably run hotter, so I might have to improve the cooling. I'll have to test it. But basically, we're going to be running higher in the rev range. And why that's good is that what was happening before is we were running with quite low revs, right? But when the bow was rising up and the propeller was getting closer to the surface, the revs were sort of really aggressively increasing over a large range, and so then it was sort of kicking us out of the water at high speed. But if the revs are already quite high when the boat leaves the water, it can't rev up too much more after that. So my thinking was that because the revs won't increase too much more at the top end, it's not going to give us that extra kick and flip us up at the bow, and it does actually work. I hope that makes sense anyway, but yeah, it's certainly working here. But that's not the only thing I did. I did one more thing to this boat, and that is with the engine limiter, the RPS limiter to be precise. So I've now limited the engine here to 18 RPS, okay? So again, like with the gearbox, you know, we're sort of shortening the range that the revs can increase at the top end because it's already up there, but at the same time I'm reducing the maximum RPS that it can achieve, so there's kind of like a shorter or a lower ceiling on that. And therefore, again, it's just not going to give us that extra surge in revs, that extra surge in revolutions of the propeller and flip us over the top. So it's limited and it's sort of less aggressive as well. But at the same time, of course, we can reach higher speeds at a lower throttle level, which is really good. The acceleration is also much better as well, so probably a bit less likely to stall. The downside, of course, is, you know, most likely a bit less fuel efficiency, maybe a lot less fuel efficiency. But, you know, these things will take time to sort of fine tune, and it's not the end. We're not finished with this thing yet. But I'm really happy that I've achieved a higher top speed by the end of this video, and it does not flip over as well. So we're going to spawn it in right now, and I'm going to show you that. But what I am going to do is very, very briefly limit this throttle. Now I've set the maximum throttle value to 0.75, and what that's going to do is allow the engine to get pretty close to the limiter that I've set, which is 18 RPS, and it might just about hit it, but it won't constantly be banging against the ceiling of the RPS limiter, and therefore creating that awful noise. So yeah, that should be quite good as a throttle level there, and we can always change it again. But that is going to be the sort of final piece of the puzzle to achieve this new top speed. So let's go spawn it in and find out. Right, here we go then. Start the engine up. Just jam on full power, to be honest. There we go. And look at that, much better acceleration than before with that old gearing. Already doing 40 knots. That's going to climb nicely. We've got 15, 16 RPS. The limit is 18. Look at that, 50 knots, guys. Before, we would have been backflipping at this point, and we're still increasing in speed. And now we're just about hitting that ceiling on the RPS limiter there, as you can see. Just about. Not always, but every sort of second or every couple of seconds we're going to be hitting it. But look at that, guys. We're going between 50 and, well, 56 knots. We are actually jumping out the water a bit. I'd say that's an average of like 52, 54 knots or something, you know. So that is much better, and we're not even close to doing a backflip. We are jumping up and down a bit, so there's still some adjustment, and I reckon we can get this a lot faster. You know, if we don't restrict the RPS, this boat is definitely capable of like more than the top speed we're aiming for, which is what, 73 knots, I think. So it can definitely get there, but it is about controlling it and also making it, you know, perform at any speed, not just top speed. But I am super happy with this new top speed. We've definitely made an improvement there, and I think we can get more out of it in the future. Now in the next video, I'd quite like to work on this engine cover here. So there is actually a cover on the back which you can lift up and it slides back, and then you can see the engine and access it, fix it, and just all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really want to do that. It's probably going to be hand operated. I'm not sure, but as it's a 1992 boat, it's probably not all sort of automatic and electrically controlled. It might be, but I wouldn't assume it is. So yeah, so that's probably going to be a hand operated piece of kit there, but I can't wait to do that. Be a nice extra detail and feature to add to this boat. Alright guys, but that's all we've got time for in today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm really happy that we've actually made some big improvements to this. Of course, it's not finished yet. There's still a lot more to go. Oh, that's just me turning. Yeah, I upset it a bit there. Anyway, we'll sort all that stuff out another time. But thank you very much, everybody. Take care, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys.